Nicely done.
Full auto. This is a flywheel pistol called the Diana.
Okay.
What's up, Nerfers? Today I'm taking a look at the HC Diana, a semi-auto or full-auto brushless micro flywheel blaster. This unit here was sent to me thanks to Out of Darts in the USA. But I also want to extend a quick thanks to Frontline Foam, who tried to send me one originally, but that Diana was seized by Australian Border Force. If you read the classification they put it under, they even admit that it's a Nerf blaster. I guess they just wanted a cool Christmas present for themselves. I'm putting the fact that this one got through down to pure luck, but I also picked the clear painted version this time to help my chances. It also comes in pink or teal, but I'm pretty sure it was a teal one that got seized. From a silhouette perspective, the Diana shares a striking resemblance to the Silencer Co. Maxim 9, so this Nerf blaster would actually be illegal in some Australian states like Victoria, who have appearance laws. And unfortunately, that's the state the seized package came in through. Find links to both Out of Darts and Frontline Foam down below. Blaster Tech have just announced about a week ago that they'll be importing the Diana in 2024. So you won't have to risk getting it seized by customs, you can just order it from them up in Queensland. The Diana, being a brushless micro flywheel blaster, fills the role of a compact sidearm that no other propulsion method in Nerf physically can. It has the perfect performance level for a Nerf sidearm shooting an average of 144 feet per second, with a full auto rate of fire of 13 rounds per second. But more on the performance later. The fast spin-up time combined with the quick stopping time of the brushless motors also makes the Diana relatively quiet compared to other flywheel blasters. So the TLDR of this blaster is that it's a small little pistol, very fast response times, and very quiet for what it is. Beginning my overview up the front, it has a loose fit, smooth bore barrel. I was kind of surprised to see there's no form of internal B-car given the relative accuracy of this thing. I have seen 3D printed add-on B-cars for the Diana, but after I took the time to actually plot all of the shots in this promo video for it, the B-car grouping is actually worse than not having it attached. Quite the opposite of the seller's claims. Below the barrel is the battery door. Out of the box it has a flush sitting grub screw, but another option included in the box is a thumb screw with the same thread. If you add a Picatinny rail to these threaded brass inserts on the bottom, I think the thumb screw could potentially get in the way of an attachment like a flashlight, plus having a grub screw sit out doesn't look quite as nice, but I opted to use the thumb screw just for the added convenience. With your choice of screw removed, the battery door comes right off, exposing an XT30 battery connector. The battery Luke recommended, and bear with me for this long name, is a Tattoo R-Line 550mAh 95C 4S LiPo. And once you plug it in, the blaster gives you a cheerful startup chime. When you connect the wires, there is no Tetris game to play to make it all fit. Put the battery door back on, and we're ready to talk functions. On the right hand side of the blaster, there's a 3-position sliding toggle switch. Towards the rear is off, or safe if you want to call it that. In the middle is semi, and all the way forward is full auto. I found it pretty easy to swap from safe or semi straight to full auto with my index finger. Pulling it back to semi or safe isn't as easy though. I think some more pronounced ridges on here or even adding your own grip tape could help improve that though. There's also a hidden 2-round or 3-round burst mode that I think a lot of people wouldn't even know about. To program it, set the fire mode to either safe, semi, or full auto, and with the battery disconnected, hold in the trigger and then plug the battery in. Finally, release the trigger, and doing this with the selector on semi like I did will make semi into a 2-round burst. Doing it set to full auto makes semi a 3-round burst, and doing it set to safe resets semi back to semi. Now this is obviously fairly difficult to do in the heat of a battle, but if you have a preference, you can definitely set it beforehand. On the left-hand side of the blaster, there's another switch. This one's only 2-position. Forwards is standard operation. When you pull the trigger, the flywheels spin up from a standstill and they fire a dart within about 300 milliseconds of pulling the trigger. However, and this is a really cool feature, in the rear position, the motors will always be spinning at a low RPM, cutting the response time in half, down from 300 milliseconds to 150. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering whether that low RPM spinning would be loud enough for your enemies to hear, potentially giving away your position. But I asked a few different people how far away they could hear that quiet humming from, and the average answer was around 3 meters.
There.
Given I was playing outdoors where we have environmental sounds like wind or birds chirping to help cover it, but 3 meters is nothing at all. So there was absolutely no downside to having it in the better mode, other than battery drain, of course. So to counteract that, when I died, I turned it off while I went back to respawn, and then I turned it back on again as I was heading back towards enemies. Moving on to the trigger pull, there is absolutely no feedback from the trigger. No click of a switch or anything tactile you can actually feel. Also, while it does seem to have a fire control unit and it will always fire at least one dart when the trigger's pulled, on semi, if you pull the trigger fast enough between shots, it won't register the second trigger pull. I would have liked to see some form of shot queuing so that if I spam the trigger very quickly on semi, it'll fire the same exact number of darts. But maybe there was some kind of technical limitation preventing that. Moving up from the trigger, the Diana has a metal flywheel cage for heat dissipation. I wouldn't go licking it after putting a whole mag through the blaster, but it does seem to do its job quite well. Taking a look at the top knotter slide, there's a pretty neat LED inside the front side post. Who needs fiber optic sights when you can just run some current up there, eh? I was gonna say real steel eat your heart out, but apparently LED irons exist in real steel too, after a quick Google search. In between the front and rear sights, there are 2 threaded brass inserts where you can attach an RMR if you prefer a red dot instead of irons. Mine was flat, so I'm not showing you that today, but it does look cooler with one on, and personally, I usually find them faster to aim with too. Taking a look at the lower half of the blaster in general, it's made of this injection molded grey coloured nylon. You can already see from just one day of gameplay, it's already taking on dirt stains. But nylon is a very sturdy material, and the blaster in hand has a nice premium feel to it. It has a good amount of weight, and it feels nicely balanced. There's some light texturing on all sides of the grip area, as well as forward of the trigger where your index finger sits when you're not firing. On the left-hand side of the grip, you'll find the mag release, perfectly positioned to hit with your thumb, assuming you're right-handed, and the mag gravity drops effortlessly. There isn't much of a flared magwell on this blaster. Diana ain't helping you get it in. The included mag holds 10 to 12 shots, depending on how much you want to squish your darts. I'd recommend 10 to avoid possible feeding issues. This being a flywheel blaster, having only 10 shots is less than ideal, so Luke sent me a 3D printed guide that helps you Dremel a mag catch into worker Nightingale mags. Nightingale mags hold 15 shots, and you can see the extra 5 darts hanging out the bottom like a cool little extended mag. I think that pretty much wraps up my overview of the Diana, so now let's get on with some testing. The darts I'll be using today were kindly provided by Foamwork Adelaide. Find them at the link down below. I'll be comparing standard worker darts against the new green tip 50% heavier ones that I like to call worker heavies. Beginning with a chrono test set to semi-auto with the 300 millisecond response time, standard worker darts first.
146, 148, 143, 140, 146, 144, 142, 146, 149, 147, 144, 147, 143, 140, and 146.
Standard worker dart shot a high of 149, low of 140, average of 144 with a standard deviation of 2.7. An incredibly consistent result that makes me wonder how will this do in the accuracy test. Before that though, let's see how fast worker heavies shoot.
138, 139, 141, 137, 134, 133, 134, 138, 136, 133, 137, 138, 136, 133, 132.
Worker Heavy shot a high of 141, low of 132, average of 135, with a standard deviation of 2.6. Being 15% heavier, I was expecting them to be 15% slower, but that wasn't the case. They were actually only 6% slower, so I suspect they'll go a little further in range than standard darts. Speaking of, before I can actually do an accuracy test, I need to know how far the Diana can actually shoot. So for this test, I'll be standing against a fence shooting back down the road, and then I'll use a laser rangefinder aimed at the fence to figure out how far each dart went. 5 shots of each.
Oh wow, they went pretty far. So we have, the first dart is a standard worker, 50 meters. Then we have a heavyweight and 2 standards at 54 meters. 2 heavies, 53 meters. I must have missed those ones. Got a standard, a heavy, and a standard at 56 meters. And then I think this is a further shot here. Here's a heavy at 58 meters.
Looking at the range results, standard workers average 54 meters, while worker heavies average 54.8 meters. Heavies also had the longest shot at 58 meters. I was not expecting a 140 FPS blaster to reach past 50 meters in range, but now I know I can do my accuracy test at my usual 30 meters that I use for springers.
I've got a clamp down in a vise so the point of aim doesn't move. We'll see how it does on semi-auto. First with standard workers. Hit. Just short. Just missed to the left. Missed to the right. Short. Short. Hit. Hit. Short. Stay over the top to the left. Hit. Hit the white sign above. Hit. Just short. Just short to the left. That's all the shots. Alright, worker heavies. Hit. I think that was a sign, it might have just been on the wood. Just short on the right. Hit. Just short on the left. Hit. 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 And just short on the left, and it bounces and hit it. Okay, so even without getting home on the computer and looking at that, just from eyesight right now, it looks like the worker heavies have a significant advantage in flywheel blasters over standard workers.
Taking a look at standard workers first, shown in red, at a distance of 30 meters, they shot a 1.5 meter spread. Not bad at all for a flywheel blaster, and for the small amount of viewers that this applies to, it's pretty much equal to a gel ball blaster. Overlaying worker heavies in green, those shot a spread 1.5 meters high, same as standard workers, but the width was quite a bit narrower at only 90 centimeters. So it looks like worker heavies beat standard workers first in a range test and now in accuracy. Obviously, a Nerf Springer is far more accurate than even the worker heavies here, but this is a flywheel blaster, so you can just send a burst of 3 to 5 shots to guarantee the kill. But after testing the Diana and using it in some gameplay, what do I think of it overall? Well, you all know I'm not usually a fan of flywheel blasters. I generally prefer the accuracy of Springers, but I've got to admit I had a lot of fun using the Diana as a primary.
What was that? Half a mag?
I definitely think it's more suited for the role of a sidearm. After all, it's small, compact, holsterable, and has full auto. The perfect complement to an accurate Springer when enemies get too close for comfort. To comment on running it as a primary, since that's how I actually used it, outdoors where there's environmental sounds to help conceal your presence, it's actually a little stealthy, a word I never thought I'd use in a flywheel video. Although it can reach out to 50 meters with that 144 FPS velocity,
Oh, fuck! Oh.
Unless you're using it at low 150 FPS cap games, I don't think it really has the accuracy to challenge someone, especially a Springer user, further than about 20 to 30 meters. And past about 15 meters, you'll be firing a 5-round burst to ensure the kill. Now, I can't talk from experience on this is just speculation, but at a low 150 FPS cap game, I think this would be absolutely in its element. You'd have yourself a brushless select fire machine of a primary that could dominate the entire field for only $300 US. Essentially, this is what the FDL used to be, but in a more compact size and for a much lower price. So for high FPS games, my suggestion is just to use it as a secondary to a Springer, but for low FPS games, it could be a very worthy primary or secondary. Both would work well. But what do you guys think? Would you use a Diana as a secondary or a primary? Let me know in the comments down below. Find it at the links down below. That's all I have for you today. Consider giving this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down to let me know what you thought of it. Here's 2 other videos that you might enjoy. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.